It's podcadzo. Yo, yo, yo. If you're listening to this before August 11th, when the episode comes out, we have a new single coming out on August 11th called Cowboy Sweetheart. So watch out for that. Check our Instagram maybe. If you're watching this in the future after August 11th, then that single is out along with the B-side. So please go stream it now. All right. Thank you. Enjoy the episode. That sucks. You can't show full frontal on YouTube. Exactly. That's one thing you can't do for sure.
It just depends if it's like tasteful enough to be considered art or not.
True. Yeah. Luckily, my is so small that it doesn't even matter.
Can't really be registered on camera.
It's always viewed as an artistic expression. All right. Welcome back to Podcadzo. We have another guest this week. A good friend of ours, someone we should have had as a guest earlier, honestly, Mr. Robert Johnson from our sort of brother band, Foreign Words.
Hello.
And he's here because this morning, well, he lives here, first of all. Second of all, this
And
morning
Julian's
I was
roommate,
like, hey, you want to do the pod? And he said, sure. So,
That easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
No real
I wasn't doing anything else.
no real plans or...
Yeah.
I'm
got
very
nothing to
happy
say.
to be here. Thank you for having
You
me.
mean
Yeah,
you
of
didn't
course.
have plans? Shocker.
On a Wednesday night.
Oh, it is Wednesday, huh?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Sorry I
always-
said that. Shocker. I was trying to be mean to you, and I feel bad now.
It's all good. I usually don't have plans on any night.
Little jack.
Most people don't either. I don't. I wouldn't have plans on a Wednesday night, except
Well,
this.
we do have plans because
I
we're all
meant-
here now.
I meant otherwise.
Nice.
So,
Well,
what are we talking about today,
okay,
Julian?
well, so we're talking about something, but before we talk about that something, I think we should talk about something else first. Shameless promotion. Foreign Words, just because he's here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a band that me and Robert are in
Yes,
together.
yes, please talk about
You guys should check it out. If you haven't already, or if you, I don't know, hate yourself and have time to kill, check out Foreign Words.
If you're like Robert and don't have any other plans.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's
No.
okay.
I think we do all right for ourselves.
Yeah.
We've been around for a long time, and we also...
like way longer than we thought.
Yeah,
It's
too
like
long.
6 years, 7 years.
I love Foreign Words, man. That album you guys put out. We
What's
should
it
talk
called?
about the
What's
album
it
for a
called,
little bit. I can think of the artwork. There's a door, a red door.
See, that's
in the
what's important.
forest.
That's most important.
Yeah.
We decided not to put the name on the... Honestly, the name isn't really important either.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, and it would have detracted from the cool
art.
picture.
Yeah.
Should we go completely backwards in order and talk about the art first? Because it was the last thing we had ready.
No.
Yeah. We went up to the they went up to the mountains, took a picture of a door.
Yeah. And then we threw it off the side of a cliff.
You brought the door there. It wasn't.
Yeah, we strapped it to
Photoshopped
we strapped it to
That's cool.
Will's Jeep.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and we drove up to kind of near Netherland area, and
Nice.
Yeah.
Why there specifically?
it was rocky.
There was a spot you had in
There was
mind.
a spot, yeah.
Sweet.
We'd camped there before.
Yeah.
Probably the coolest camping spot. One of the coolest camping spots we've been to.
Yeah.
Some of the worst people.
Did
Yeah.
you?
They abuse that shit.
Yeah, they do.
If
for
you
sure,
go
so
camping, clean up after your fucking self. Don't be a fucking cunt.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the first time I said the C word on a podcast, but don't be a cunt.
Yeah.
Clean up after yourself.
Cunt. I just said it too.
Can you say cunt on YouTube?
I don't. We're
Dude,
finding
people
out today.
freak out about that word. I've always
Here,
Julie and
hear
I
it.
in
have
the States, yeah.
I hear it a lot on other podcasts I listen to. I
Yeah.
listen to some. I listen to some gross podcasts.
Yeah, but like YMH, yeah, and
Yeah.
like fucking Tiger Belly, like don't count.
Well, that's
Oh,
where I
Tiger.
pretty much exclusively hear it. So
yeah, Bobby Lee saying the C word is pretty awesome.
yeah,
Love that.
he says it with a lot of
Yeah.
meaning.
Well, I was always into like British shit, you know. I like watch like British TV shows where cunt is used so casually.
Just like the equivalent of dick,
Yeah. Exactly. And
which
I think
it
it
kind of
should
should be.
Jim Jeffries has a joke and he's like, Americans don't say cunt nearly as often as you should.
Yeah, we got a lot of cunts here, so kind of adds up. All right, well, yeah, back to Foreign Words. So
Yeah. So you started Foreign Words as a solo project.
Yeah, probably
even longer than 7 years ago, probably
Yeah.
like 9 years
Mhm.
ago,
9
10
years ago, 9, 10 years ago. It was probably like rumblings and just being like 16.
Wow, so we were in
and,
high
like,
school, huh?
depressed. Yeah. And had just gotten kicked out of Blue Taboo. Which
Shout
is
out.
another, which is another band who's still around now, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways,
We had the last laugh. I would have had the last laugh either way. So
yeah. Yeah, I'd gotten kicked out of my first high school band, and my heart was broken from a failed relationship and that. So I
Sorry,
was just
man.
like, no, it's all. I was 16. It's kind of funny thinking back about it.
Yeah.
yeah, it
I
was
like,
also
writing like really terrible music and.
everything was so inflated back then. Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Will and Robert fucking hated each other. Just like not just because of the Blue Taboo thing, but that was like the peak of it.
Yeah.
And now it's like it was a high school band.
Will being Will Brock, our foreign
Yeah,
words is
another
bassist.
shout out.
I can imagine being like, you do think that shit is the entire world. I remember like I was jealous of Blue Taboo and wanted to be in it when like I joined high school and met Jared and you guys originally, and I saw you play at the talent show. I was like, fuck, that's really cool. I want to be in a band like that.
That's Blue Taboo sucked back then. And then when I got kicked out is when they got kind of cool. So
It
that's
was
I
never
think why I
great,
was.
though.
I think
It
that's
was
why.
very much a first band.
No, the two records are really good. The Morning Fuck, Ocean's Fuck.
Yeah. Mornings and Oceans Fuck. Yeah, I remember those albums.
Morning Fog
Those
and
were-
Ocean's Rust. Also shout out. Check out those records.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we somehow still have listeners, even though there hasn't been a single.
That's cool.
Yeah.
On like Spotify or
Mhm. Yeah, we have. It's only like 4 or 5, but it's like, hey, I'm not one of them. So
yeah.
yeah,
And I'm not either.
yeah. I don't think anyone here is.
I don't think I am either.
Yeah.
Robert, so you start the solo project because
Yeah,
your
started
heart's
the solo
broken.
project,
What
yes.
was your inspiration at the time musically?
Oh God! Back then, when I was 16, who's my inspiration? A lot of like sad boy indie artists.
I remember you were one of the early like mega fans of Bon Iver.
Bon Iver. I loved Bon Iver. That first record, Forever Ago. Fuck that record now in some ways.
I know.
Anyways, but like it's still a fucking fantastic.
When you said
but-
you did like a heartbroken solo project, I immediately thought of Bon Iver.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's natural that he'd be some inspiration there.
Exactly. Yeah, I was definitely big into Bon Iver. Keaton Henson was a big one. He's a British artist who's starting to get like mildly big now.
That's cool.
More just sad boy stuff. Who else was pretty big back then?
I mean,
was
Tom York,
16.
kind
Yeah,
of.
Tom York and Radiohead still has always been inspirational for that stuff. But a lot of the solo Tom York stuff, like The Eraser and stuff off that.
Yeah.
Yeah, very inspirational.
Right on.
Yeah, but it was really bad. It was all really.
It was pretty good. I mean, there was like a level of confusion to it, as I think there always is when you're 16 and pissed off and heartbroken. But
Mhm.
there was like always solid bones there. I think if there weren't, then me and Will would have been like, no, we would have
Nah.
said no to foreign words. But
That's true. It was quite a bit. There was quite a bit of progression from like early stages to like writing the single "You," which is on the first record, but is a different recording than the original single.
yeah, so that seems like a good kind of place to fast forward to. We're all living in the same house. We are like sharing a practice space. Blue Taboo's practicing there. You're doing your solo shit there. And then at one point, there's just a crossover where you just ask me to like track some shit for that single specifically.
Yes.
And that was kind of the beginning. And that, honestly, that single that was tracked in the basement and he mixed it, it's like pretty fucking solid. Like,
It was. It was
turned
good.
out really, really good.
You can't listen
Hell
to
yeah.
it anymore. Maybe we'll like release it as a B-side or like a
That'd be
hidden
cool.
track some
Put
other
it out
day,
on the
but-
deluxe edition of the next
Oh, it's
album.
way better than the one that came out on the first record. That
Yeah.
one sucks.
Well, they're just totally different.
Uh-huh.
They're totally different. And,
It's so weird releasing music that you just like really don't like after. But
well, and
that's the only one though.
I mean, we tried to make it. We tried to like update it to make it fit on the album,
Yeah.
and I think that is maybe it wasn't supposed to really sound like the
Yeah.
rest of the shit on the album.
We
But
tried to put a square peg in a round hole.
yeah, a little
But we
bit.
fucking bashed that shit in there.
It-
just didn't work.
It worked. Well,
It
I mean,
worked, but it
worked.
wasn't up to the snuff of like where we are musically now and
Yeah.
even back then.
It was
and
the
yeah.
first album.
Yeah, it
And
was the first record.
It's cool that the song made it on the record just because it really was the song that kind of started it all. Specifically, me joining.
I wouldn't
and-
take it off the record. I just don't like it particularly much anymore.
Yeah.
Well, and
Did you mention the name of the song or
it's called
You.
you? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I might be misremembering things a little bit, but
So wait, you released it as a single
yeah.
originally, and that's what you drummed on first. That was your
Mhm.
first. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
and it was
And then
just
you
me and
readapted
him.
for
there
that
was
one.
no Will.
No, Will.
Yeah.
'Cause you were playing bass. You were dubbing your own bass parts then. And then, were there? was
Yeah,
there
I played
any?
bass on that.
Yeah.
I played bass, and there was some glockenspiel on that I played. Jared Jansen wrote the glockenspiel part for that. He wrote the original.
Played it on my practice bells.
Nice.
I was like, oh shit. He
Also
was,
of Blue
just
Taboo
flipping
fame.
it. Yes, JJ. Shout out wherever the fuck you
Shout
are.
out Jared. I think he's in Nashville.
He's everywhere.
Love you, brother.
So before that song, I kind of tracked with you on that song, I remember that you kind of really were like vehemently wanting it to stay a solo project. You're like, this is my thing. I'm going to do this like just for myself.
Yeah, mostly because like I think I had asked you guys at least. I don't think the first time I had asked you guys, you were like just like, yeah, we'll do it. I think there was definitely like I think it was like not like 20 times, but
I think there was like a level of
4
confusion
or
where it was
5
like, I
times.
don't exactly know what I'm getting myself into.
yeah.
But
and
then-
I don't think any of us knew what it was gonna get into.
That song, tracking that kind of solidified it where it was like, okay, yeah, we should definitely like do more shit together.
Yeah.
That was
What
the first
year was
time.
that? Were we out of high school yet?
Yeah, I
then?
think that would have
Okay.
been what 2017 or no, probably 2016.
2016.
Yeah. I don't even know if I lived in the house at that point. I think I might have just been hanging out all the time there and not living there yet.
Yeah.
But we had never like played before together, and we never, I don't think, thought about the idea of playing together. And now it's kind of like, not to be like super cheesy, but it's kind of just like second nature. Like it seems
Mhm.
at this point like not playing together would be way more unnatural than playing together. So
Yeah.
it's been an interesting transition and like a cool kind of, the band has like tangentially been a timeline for like our friendship and like the shit that we've done together too. So it's been interesting. It's been like kind of a backbone for a while, even though we took like a huge fucking hiatus and didn't do anything for years.
I feel so dumb now that it's like we're never gonna do that ever again.
Yeah, I
But,
think we
yeah.
all found a place where we could be a little bit more consistently going at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you guys are fucking doing your thing now and playing a bunch of
Nice.
shows. I don't know when we'll release this episode, but do you have any upcoming shows to plug?
Yes, we have a show at Functional in Fort Collins. What a place for? I don't know their slogan, but yes, Functional.
We can
In
put that
Fort
in
Collins.
post.
August 4th, we're doing a
August
show with Blast and Scrap. It's a cool local.
Oh yeah,
God, what would you describe them as?
They're
it's
just like a
August 5th,
collective.
Saturday. Are you playing Saturday or Friday?
I think it's the 5th.
The 5th.
Is it the 5th?
I think. Well,
Because Kadzo was gonna potentially
Yeah,
play a show
we
then
got
too,
asked
and it
to
was
play
the
the same
5th.
show.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
but I told Colin I don't think I should do a double.
Do a
set.
double
oh, it is
set,
an
yeah.
8-5.
Okay.
Okay,
8-5.
sorry. August 5th. Thank you.
Save your
Colin.
fucking ass.
Yeah,
Save
you
people
did.
would have shown up on the wrong night.
all of you fine listeners would have showed up on the.
Dude, Robert's
Friday.
voice sounds so sexy.
Yeah,
in the
he's got a
cans.
good
You got a
voice
good
for
radio
radio.
voice.
Thank you,
Mhm.
sir. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I like the haircut too.
Thank you. Yeah.
For the listeners, well, really for the viewers, because the listeners are only listening; they can't see anything. But
That's a
Robert
good
could have any
observation.
hairstyle, but Robert used to have long hair.
Yeah, I used to be like fucking like down to here.
It was pretty long for
yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
I cut. What,
As did Julian. You
18
guys cut
inches
your
off.
hair around the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. We like started talking about it at the same time too. He was,
Was
like,
it-
I think I'm gonna cut my hair, and I was like, oh shit, I was just thinking the other day about how much I
Nice.
want to fucking
So you
cut
like
my hair.
encourage each other.
A little bit. Well, yeah, but he did it first, and so I think since he did it first,
It was
I
scary,
like,
bro.
Okay, well,
Cutting off that much hair.
I
yeah,
know.
Foot
he,
and a half of
he
hair.
did the anxious part, so I'll do I'll just go in and just chop it off. Not
I had pretty long hair, not quite as long as your guys's, but
yours was pretty long.
yeah, in
Yeah.
September,
Shoulder
and yeah,
length.
cutting it off was like a little. I was ready to do it, but it was also a little traumatic. Like
It's an
seeing that come
emotional
off,
thing.
yeah,
You get
like
connected to your hair. Yeah.
I was just like thinking about all those months passing as my hair fell to the ground.
The
I was
short
like,
hair fits you like a lot better. I feel like.
oh, thanks, dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it. I like it more too. I knew long hair would be like a just a short phase for me.
The
you know?
COVID phase.
Yeah, COVID phase.
Everybody's
Like,
got it.
everyone's got to
grew
do
it
it.
out a little bit.
Yeah.
Let your
Um,
primal instinct out.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dude, I did
Go
too.
full
I was
caveman.
a wild man then.
All right. Well, you got anything else to say about ourselves?
No. Shameless plug. Check out Foreign Words.
Well, when did you guys
foreignwords.org.
become so heavy? Is my question. Like, cause you were just naming
That's
kind
a
of sad boy
interesting
stuff.
question.
Oh, that is.
Me and Will.
Wow, okay.
Me and Will specifically, and then you can say your side of this too, but
Yeah.
me and Will specifically went into it being like, this is going to be our heavy project. I don't know why, but we thought like from the beginning, like this needs to be heavier.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because this dude is like super emotional. Like his emotions are like very extreme.
Emotional wreck.
So
Yeah.
like,
It's
I
called
think,
bipolar disorder, but it's undiagnosed. So.
yeah. We'll circle
Cue
back.
manic laugh.
But no, it's just
Yeah.
all the songs, or like all the ideas behind the songs were always very like extreme, like pitting anger against sadness, or
Mhm.
like just not anger again, just any sort of like anxious feeling or just kind of like manic feeling up against just like kind of like a more hopeful, like beautiful approach.
Yeah.
Like very harshly like juxtaposing those two was kind of like the idea for it. And so based on like his emotions that he was bringing to the practices and like the fact that we wanted to try and do like heavy versus dreamy is what we called it, the heavy was it was just like kind of a natural thing. And I remember there was one point we were writing a riff for, I think, Out of Tongue, and it's like the break that's like in 7, and me and Will kind of just like came up with that in practice, and like in the middle of working on the song we just kind of like threw it in the song, and it was like super fucking heavy, and we were just like, okay, this
Yeah,
like
we found
this feels like what we should be doing, like
Yeah.
something that is inspired by a lot of what we were listening to at the time, but also takes like a little bit of a separate like approach. Like
Yeah.
it's not necessarily just like riffs, it's a lot of like, I don't know, how would you describe it?
I really don't know. I was trying to think that whole time where we started getting heavy. Because I'm trying to think what we were even working on when I came to you guys, and it was like, hey, I want you guys to join the band, but because I couldn't have just had the one song. Maybe I had Sly Fox going, or Lay Me Down.
Yeah.
I probably definitely did have Lay Me Down, I think, and then we were kind of going into like a post-rock kind of genre way.
Yeah.
I was kind of jamming that song with you,
Yeah.
trying to help you figure it out, but
Mhm.
not with the intention of
Yeah,
writing a
just
part or
like helping
anything.
me out, because
Yeah.
like it definitely was more than you, the song. Quote,
It's a
you.
dope transition, and it feels like natural somehow to go from like kind of more like mellow indie sad boy stuff to like super heavy,
Mm-hmm.
and like it feels like natural that you guys play, like you definitely belong there.
They have
Yeah.
a lot in common, like, and I think that's why
The emotions are the same,
Yeah.
in some ways, just different interpretation or expressions of them, I guess I should
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
But
Thanks for doing that off mic.
I'm a gentleman
You're
at heart.
Professional.
Yeah.
well, and then
We still do the sad boy indie shit.
yeah, circling back
But-
around, we're writing now. Well, he's writing now for like LP2,
Yeah.
and a lot of the discussion at first was like him wanting to go in a more kind of like pop inspired direction and lean away from the heavy. And I think we kind of, I mean, me and Will both told him like,
It was pretty straight up.
we kind of told him like we
do
don't think that's the right move for us. And then I think he found a really good way to like bring his idea a little bit more into like the universe we were already in.
Yeah.
And so it kind of feels a lot of ways like picking up where we left off. And I think LP1, we were kind of like just scratching the surface of where we like really wanted to go with like heavy shit, because there's really not that much heavy shit on it.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like if we can make that a little bit more of a central focus without just being like the heavy band, then that's kind of where we want to be. So, speaking for myself,
For sure. That makes sense.
and kind of speaking for Will too, because we've both wanted like a heavy project forever, and like it's the perfect way to be heavy without being like a metal band or a hardcore band or like, you know,
Oh yeah,
just
totally.
something
Like,
that is
in
already
a box
being
like
done.
that, yeah. Well, sometimes Foreign Words rehearses before Kadzo does, so I've been hearing some of the new songs, and it all sounds super fucking rad.
Thank
I always
you.
enjoy sitting outside the house and
Hell yeah.
listening to it. So
We've been
I'm
playing
stoked to
them
hear.
live, which is fun too, because I think the first album we didn't really play it live until it was already like done. So now
Mhm.
it feels good to kind of be writing on stage a bit.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. Hell yeah. Well, Robert, thanks again for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We was it just coincidental that we wanted to talk about this and then Robert joined, or okay,
Yeah,
cool, because this is something.
I just asked him because he was there, and I was like, well, it could be fun.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But yeah, this is, I think, something that we all enjoy to
Mhm.
various
Yeah,
extents.
I don't know a whole lot about the subject as far as like specifics, but I got a lot of some anecdotal stories and
Hell yeah.
I think that's why we can
shenanigans to
balance this out.
say.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I've got the factual.
I have no
locked
emotional
down.
attachment to it. I just am here as a biographer of Jack
Nice.
White and the White Stripes.
Okay.
Totally detached, but I know everything about it.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So we got all three sides of it.
But to be clear, that is what we're talking about.
We're talking
Jack
about
White
Jack-
and the White Stripes.
I basically just brought this up because we've kind of been in the 90s and 2000s,
Yep.
and kind of talking about like rock and shit. And I fucking love Jack White, and I've been waiting for a time to slide it in. So since we didn't really have anything else,
And the White Stripes are technically a 90s rock group since they formed in 97.
yep. So we're not
Released their
even really
first album
going-
like 98.
Late 90s.
They formed in 97, and then I think
99.
99 was the
when
first
the
album you got
one
on
came
there.
out.
Yeah.
They-
I don't know that. I'm reading off a Wikipedia page on
No,
the
I
screen
think,
right
that,
now.
I think that's right. The
Self-titled debut
the
album
big
was
one came out in
1999.
2000.
Yeah.
But yeah, they played shows for like a couple years before they released anything. And I guess the first thing to really mention is just that they kind of started the White Stripes just as like a side project to a side project. Jack White was an upholsterer, so he was like making couches and chairs and shit. And then he met Meg and like needed a drummer, and she didn't know anything about how to play the drums or like really songwriting, but she just sat in because she was there essentially, and he needed help writing songs.
Wait,
and
before we go further, something I
Yeah.
have wanted to ask you. Meg White as a drummer. What are your thoughts?
I love Meg White as a
Okay, cool.
drummer.
Me too.
I think personally, and I think that most drummers do genuinely feel this way. Technical ability doesn't mean really jack shit if it's just technical ability.
Yeah, if
like
it's not
there has to
adding
be
anything.
emotion to it. It has
Yeah.
to add to the track. And I also think there's a lot of times when like the type of music that Jack White was playing like doesn't need technical shit behind it. It just needs
It needs a solid
enough.
beat.
Yeah,
with
it just
feeling.
needs enough to give feeling to the track.
I was like unaware for a long time that there was so much Meg White hate. Like it was like after the White Stripes had what's the word, disbanded, that I found out people like were dissing Meg White and shit. And I was like, what's the deal?
On
Meg
like
White's
mass media publications,
yeah.
like Pitchfork and like Rolling Stone.
and
would
yeah,
be,
I
like,
think it
shitting
really
on her 'cause they thought it
affected
was
her.
funny.
Yeah, and I was like, as a kid, not to jump ahead, sorry, I might be skipping out. I was a big White Stripes fan as a kid, and never even thought twice that Meg White might be considered not a good drummer, because I was like, I love the White Stripes. Those songs are sick. The drums in them are really good.
Well, and
What's the fucking big
not
deal, guys?
by virtue of not being a drummer by like trade, you're gonna like take up an approach that no one else would take, like
Yeah.
a very uniquely individual approach to playing. And so like I think none of the decisions that she made were like things that anyone else would have made, which is why it's so unique, and I think why it like latched on so much.
That goes back to our Vampire Weekend episode because I mentioned I'm a big fan of the drums in Vampire Weekend, and this because Chris Thompson wasn't like a drummer, and I was listening. Coincidentally, right after we did that episode, there was a Time Crisis episode where Chris Thompson came on, and they were talking about that. And Chris Thompson was like, I wasn't even into like indie music at the time that we started Vampire Weekend. Like, I didn't even know what indie was. He was like, I listened to like Fish exclusively. He was like a big jam band guy.
He seems kind of like a jam band guy.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So he had like no bias from anything else that was going on that could influence his style. Like, oh, I have to play like other people. And like in the late 90s for Meg White to play like that, when like kind of virtuosic, like very technical drumming was, I think, the idea of like rock drumming in the late 90s with like
Neil
alternative Peart, and Neil Peart, and then like
Taylor Hawkins, Dave Grohl, like a golden age of drumming.
Exactly, totally. And yeah, it was all very proficient. So for Meg White to just like basic like 4 on the floor blues beats and shit.
It's important to mention too that she like never ever wanted to be famous or knew or had no one knows that they're gonna be famous, but there was no like preconceived notion of like we're gonna be a band, we're gonna tour, like there's gonna be albums. Like it was just, hey, let's do this shit because it's fun. And like I think Jack White was recording it on 8 tracks, and like it was just like for funsies basically.
Yeah.
And so when you put yourself out there like that and then get roasted for like your entire career, it's gonna make you like
so fucking
wanna
brutal.
reject fame even
And
more.
remember, do you guys remember there was all that shit about like, I feel like every other week it was like Jack White and Meg White are siblings and also like married, secretly married.
I did.
There was just
remember
always
hearing
like
that
some
shit,
weird
like in high school.
yeah,
in middle school actually. No, yeah, definitely middle school.
Yeah.
They were, if I remember correctly, they were married and then divorced and then performed as brother and sister.
Yes. Yeah, something like that.
Yes, and I think that went into their, I don't know, that was kind of just like their whole kind of shtick. I think she just got shit because she's a woman.
Yeah. Oh,
And
totally.
she
That was a
was-
time when women were not welcome in rock.
Yeah.
They're still, well, okay, not to say they're still not.
There's like a golden
lot
age
harder.
of indie sad girl happening right now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And like Phoebe Bridgers.
And Boy
Julian
Genius.
Genius and Julian Baker and
Lucy Dacus.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I would have felt bad if no one remembered that. Okay. But yeah, they're
And
fucking
T-Swizzle.
killing it.
Yeah,
They're doing
T-Swizzle.
awesome.
Yeah,
and
truly.
and all of the female artists that are doing it. Feist is still doing it, and I
Yeah.
feel like she like really
Feist
paved the
is
way.
still knocking it out of the fucking
but, oh, yeah,
park.
she's the best, one of the best,
Best
artists on
there
the
ever
planet.
was.
But
Mhm.
yeah, I think she just got shit because she was a woman and she
Yeah.
was drumming, and people are like,
Well,
I
and
don't
she
like that.
she like, dude, I mean, you're fully right. People like White Stripes fans or like rock fans in general would like insult her because she like looked stupid when she was playing the drums.
Oh, yeah.
Or like she sat too high or like whatever it might be. It's like if it was anyone else, I don't think.
She didn't. She looked great. I like the way she played it on. Like I still remember the Hardest Button to Button music video. They're like going down the street. Yeah, they're like changing red and white colors. She looks fucking dope in that video. It's-
Yeah. Well, and she was always so like boisterous and she always
Oh,
looked
yeah,
so
totally.
happy. And I think they both cared about putting on a show, but they played off of each other really well too. Because Jack White was on his like demon mode shit, trying to be like angry and edgy, and she was always just very like light and boisterous in her approach to like playing live, which it was super interesting. And yeah, no one else has fucking done it. So like,
No.
yeah.
Well, Robert,
Yes, sir.
I have an important question.
Mm-hmm.
When did you first hear of the White Stripes?
The first time I heard of the White Stripes. Is Blue Orchid a White Stripes song?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, God, this was
That was an early one for me too.
yeah. When did was it on White Blood Cells or was it on
It was on Get Behind Me Satan, I think.
Yeah, which was 2004.
Yeah.
2004? So I'd have been 8. Okay, so when did the PlayStation 2 come out? Because this
Dude,
ties into
we
it
had a
weirdly.
very similar childhood. What are you looking at? I'm gonna get another beer. You guys need anything?
I am. I'm okay at the moment.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, it was 2005. Sorry.
2005. Get Behind Me, Satan. And when did the PlayStation 2 come out, though? Or shit. Okay. When did SingStar for the PlayStation come out? SingStar. PS2. It's one word, but that's okay.
Is this?
No, the OG one. OG. Yeah, SingStar Pop. Or SingStar Rocks, probably, actually.
We're getting to a very specific answer right now.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's good.
We're
It's
getting into
good.
it right now.
2006.
Okay. So I would have been 10. Oh my God!
Right
it came
around
out
your
November.
birthday.
That's on
That
my
is your
birthday.
birthday.
Holy fucking Sorry.
That's pretty cool.
Holy.
Oh,
What a good
November
present that would have
14th.
been.
I think it probably was then. Okay. So anyways, I got a PlayStation 2 probably when I was around 10. Okay. And wow. Anyways, on the SingStar Rocks was a whole bunch of music, but like you sang into this crappy little plastic microphone and you had to like match the pitch on the thing, and it was kind of like early like Guitar Hero tour, like the World Tour one where you
I
had
had
like
Rock
sing, like,
Band, which
yeah,
was the
okay.
same
Rock
thing.
Band
yeah.
had the thing, but so SingStar was just for the singing, and yeah, it was cool. But Blue Orchid was one of the songs on there, and it was the hardest one to do because you had to do that falsetto at the beginning.
You got a blue orchid.
Yeah,
Well, just
exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so hold
So
on.
that was my first introduction, 10 years old, singing Blue Orchid into a crappy little plastic microphone.
Did you all the way back then? Did you like want to sing, or was that just like a thing that you got,
That was just a thing that I got. It was weird. I didn't even think that I would be a singer until
like foreign words for a
foreign
traveler,
words.
right?
Exactly, yeah.
Crazy.
It was wild.
Well, shit. So,
So
So
did
that
you-
was my first introduction to them.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay. And then I had always, of course, heard when Seven Nation Army came out. And that was a little later, right?
that was like 2007.
2007.
Yeah.
So I would have been 12.
2008.
Yep.
I think it was 2007.
Was it on Icky Thump?
Mm-hmm.
07, if that Wikipedia page is correct.
Was it on Icky Thump or was it just like a single? Was
It
it,
was
actually
on
on
the
the album?
album. Mhm.
Okay. Oh, it's on Elephant.
It's on Elephant, which is 2000.
Oh,
shit,
2003.
Fuck yeah, I got that totally backwards.
Okay, so then never mind. I had heard Seven Nation Army before we had heard.
I don't think it.
The-
Well, I think it.
Before we did the SingStar.
I think it blew up right away, but I don't think it became an
To
institution
become like an
until
anthem.
like
Yeah.
a lot later.
You kind of were subject to whatever your mom listened to in the car on the radio. That was like what
Yeah, a
you
little
were
bit.
exposed to as a child, you know. So like, yeah, my mom always listened to like 99.9, so the pop channel. So, but like that was pop, and the rock still. a
Oh,
little bit
totally. Yeah.
back in the day.
Definitely.
So yeah, and then singing it on SingStar, seeing the video, and the music video would play behind the thing, so you like really got to see them and like see what was up. And I was like, this dude is so white. He's like
Yeah.
Michael Jackson almost.
He
like,
was a
so
weird
white.
motherfucker.
He was a weird motherfucker, but I was like, but he's kind of pretty too.
This
And
dude
I'm
should
like,
be
okay,
named
this is
like
weird.
Jack White or something. Whoa.
But Meg White is still prettier, so she got it. You know, she got the.
They
Yeah.
do look like brother and sister. It's kind of fucking weird.
They do.
And also, I guess it's worth mentioning, kind of, just that White Stripes really kicks off and makes super popular the garage rock scene again. The garage rock revival, I guess I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Because garage rock wasn't really a thing. We talked a lot about like Britpop and kind of like indie and alternative in this time, which kind of was a lot more full scale. And garage rock intended to be like as minimalist as fucking
Well,
possible.
when we did the 2000s New York indie rock episode afterwards, I was bummed we didn't talk about White Stripes more because they obviously weren't New York and they started a little bit earlier. But I think they were like really like they were like hot shit to all those bands. And I
Totally.
remember there was like a famous gig in New York where the White Stripes and the Strokes played together, and it was like a big deal.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and they also, to a certain extent, like reinvented Delta blues a little bit, and like they because they were genre hopping to a certain extent and not just like focused entirely on rock. They were definitely pushing experimentation on a lot of their albums. So
Mhm.
like, I think it was a more accessible version of like what garage rock was before. Jack White said he was inspired by like I can't remember any of the names of the bands, but he would go to just like clubs or like old abandoned factories or like just someone's house to see shows a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there'd be like a lot of bands where it's like one guitar and like a drummer who has like one kick drum and a rack tom, and like that's it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was just like the complete opposite of where a lot of mainstream music was at that point. So
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
it brought a lot of focus back to like minimalism and kind of made it like cool again in the mainstream.
Julian, when did you get into the White Stripes?
Well, so the White Stripes were like kind of a dad band for me. Like my dad played them a lot, and I never like really gave a shit about them.
You had a dad with great music taste who was very
Totally,
hip. So you can't use the term dad rock.
No. Well, and it's interesting because a lot of what I would consider dad rock, I still think is good because of my dad and because of the fact that he has good taste. But he was, I mean, I can't remember. We need to have my dad on this podcast because he could tell us so many fucking great stories. But he was in radio for a long time.
Shout out Sam.
Yeah, big shout out. He was always listening to new shit because he kind of had to for work. And so it was always just on in the background. And I think White Stripes is one of those things where it was like super fresh, super exciting, kind of grabbed everyone in that community by the horns, and people that were stoked about music were super stoked about the White Stripes. And then, to be honest, I didn't really think about them too much until the first Rack and Tours album.
Yeah.
Where my dad was like, "That's the same guy from the White Stripes," and I was like, "Oh fuck!" And then the first Rack and Tours album like blew my fucking mind.
That's an amazing album.
So then I went and listened back to some White Stripes like a little bit more with more intent, and I liked it. Like I thought it was good still. I thought it was like really different. I just didn't quite get it yet. And then Jack White put out his first solo album, Blunderbuss, in 2012, which again, my dad played it for me. I remember we were in his Fiat Spider, which is just like this old loud convertible. And so he would play everything like fully cranked because that's the only way you could hear shit. So he like threw it on, fully cranked it, and then it was like, yeah, the first 2 songs on that album are just like amazing. And so I was like, this guy fucking rocks.
Yeah.
And at that point, I listened to everything he'd ever
You're
done
fully in.
with like a lot of very careful intent, and he's been like huge inspiration to me ever since. But basically 2012 is kind of like really when I got super into it.
Back to the Raconteurs, that was like the other hacky thing that everyone would say about Jack White. It's like, oh, how many bands is this guy? And like Jack White's in a billion bands because he had the Dead Weather too and stuff.
What about you?
I had my best friend growing up was a dude named Connor Sanders. Shout out Connor, who had he was a couple years older than me, so I like looked up to him and his music taste, and he was always showing me new music. He got me really into Green Day.
Nice.
That was like
Ooh.
my favorite band growing up was Green Day.
As it should be.
Yeah. Gorillaz and White Stripes. Whenever I listen to any of those groups, I think of growing up and hanging out with Connor.
Nice.
But yeah, Connor was really into the White Stripes, and then I got really into the White Stripes, and then I got my cousin really into the White Stripes. So this was probably like 2003, 2004.
Okay.
So I was like kind of in on the beginning because Connor had an older brother, so he was significantly older than us, who was like kind of close to high school age around that time, and he played guitar, so he was like really hip on all the guitar music, and I think he like idolized Jack White. So he kind of passed it on to all of us.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was in, I remember Icky Thump coming out, and I think that was the first like CD I ever like bought myself, like was excited to go to the store. Like I asked my mom to take me to the store so I could buy Icky Thump on CD.
Nice.
And I remember putting it on my iPod Nano and just listening
Hell
to it
yeah.
on repeat for days. Yeah, so that's how I got on the White Stripes. And then, I just got really into Jack White after that on all of his projects, partially because of something I did want to talk about. And we were talking about this before the pod started, which was the movie It Might Get Loud.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I
what
thought
you...
we were gonna say The Happening. Okay, It Might
There's
Get
still
Loud is
time.
definitely a better movie.
Yeah. It Might Get Loud came out in 2008.
Yes.
I remember it well.
So we were all about 12, 13, 12.
And
Yeah.
fuck, this might be one of the few things that we all saw when it like came out.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw it in the theaters.
I didn't see it in the theaters. My dad got the DVD as soon as it became available though, and we watched it at home. And I probably watched it like 4 times on repeat.
It's so interesting too that at this point in time, Jack White is already, like, I mean, The Edge and Jimmy Page both have careers that are
Yeah.
decades old, and then Jack White is like in the 8th year of his career,
Yeah.
essentially,
Pretty
or
much.
like the 10th year.
I know, but it was crazy though, and it's weird to think about it in perspective. But like at the time, as a kid, I was like, oh yeah, it makes sense that Jack White is a guitar legend, and like since he had been around most of my childhood,
That
I
is
was like,
true.
oh, Jack White's been doing it forever.
If you think about 3 guitar legends still today, what, 2008, 10, 15 years
Yeah,
later,
15.
The Edge, Jimmy Page, and Jack
Jack
White.
White,
Yeah,
seriously.
still.
Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac.
Fuck you.
I love Lindsey. I love
I love
Mac and I love Lindsey
I love
Buckingham.
Yeah, but it was a strong move on, like if they had gotten just 2 dudes from like the 20th century, or 3 dudes rather, off from like the 20th century, it would have been weak. But and Jack White, like, okay, so what we were talking about earlier is how big of an asshole
mode.
Jack White comes across as in the movie.
Used to. Yeah, in this movie, for sure. Yes.
But
yes.
I remember very distinctly watching this with my dad, who's he like Jimmy Page is my dad's idol, being like he grew up in the 70s.
Hell yeah.
And he was in a U2 tribute band, so my dad loves Jimmy Page and The Edge.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the movie with him, and he's like, "Wow, Jack White's like pretty much showing these guys up. Like he's doing some cool shit, like." He's a lot more interesting to watch and listen to than Jimmy Page and The Edge.
Yeah.
So yeah, he did hold his own in the movie for sure.
He definitely holds his own in the movie, and he kind of like, I mean, the movie like opens with him,
Yeah,
and
it has that scene of him making
that
like the
little
cigar
one-string,
box.
Yeah. Guitar,
I feel like he has
whatever.
the most like weird,
guitar.
artsy like monologues out of like anyone in that film. Because there's also the scene of him like with the kid like in the piano.
Yeah,
And it's just like, what the
I
fuck is
know.
happening?
He's like, that was him in full Amish mode
Gotta
too.
fight the instrument. The
Yeah,
instrument.
Yeah.
he was
You and the
wearing all
instrument
have to
hate
suits
each
and-
other.
Yeah, and he has the kid like kick
Stomp
the
on it.
stomp on it. That's so crazy.
It's like, come on, man. What are
Yeah.
you doing?
He was really trying to do everything he could to kind of just like encapsulate that vibe and no. Step back. I hate that word. To encapsulate that image that he was trying to portray out to
Why
the
do you hate the
world.
word vibe?
It's just
It's
overused.
overused.
It's just overused.
Yeah, it
So
is.
I guess that's
It
just why.
kind of like it is
And
a
it's
lazy
vague.
word.
Yeah,
it's vague.
a little vague.
Yeah, I say vibe a
It's
lot when I
easy.
can't think of anything else to say. Yeah,
It's not a bad
Respect.
word.
That's the
no, it's not
vibe.
a bad
that's
word.
the vibe. Yeah,
Sometimes it fits perfectly, but in that word, I felt I'm always
You
trying
could
to
do more.
exactly. I'm always trying to be a little bit
trying to be more exact with your English.
Yeah,
You're like Robin Williams in Dead Poet Society.
exactly. I try
Oh,
to be-
Captain, my Captain.
But yeah, he gosh, I remember seeing it and thinking, yeah, this guy's a freaking asshole. This guy's just like so full of, but I never had like a bad image of Jack White. I just remember him like he was an asshole in this movie.
Yeah.
Because when I would see him on stage, he would just seem so like in videos, obviously. I've never seen, well, I have seen Jack White live. Yeah, we fucking did. But before this, I'd never seen him when I was before I was like 20. Yeah, I was like 22 or something when we saw him.
Yeah.
But before that, I had always just seen like videos on YouTube and like of him playing live, and he was always just like this free spirit and like just did whatever he wanted. So I was like, there's no way he's like. I kind of could understand that this was like an image that he was trying to portray, and like not necessarily maybe. I don't think he went home and was like that to like. I don't know. Maybe he was, but
I
it didn't
think-
seem like it
I
to
don't
me
know.
at the time.
He's
It's
an elusive
very
guy.
interesting.
Yeah.
Like I just from all the shit that I've read and shit that I've listened to, like I think he really was that way, and then there was just a huge shift, like around literally the boarding house reach era,
Yeah.
where he went from being like everything has to be analog, everything has to be a pain in the ass, to just kind of being like, oh well, this digital shit's actually pretty nice.
I can
Yeah.
play a
You can
guitar
do some cool
that
shit
was
with it,
manufactured past 1980
Right.
something, that's not made of plastic and stays in tune.
Well, and he was always
Mhm.
playing super nice guitars in the Raconteurs, and he was also always playing like fucking custom ass drums in the Dead Weather. So like he
Mhm.
definitely had the philosophy that like you can have nice shit.
Yeah.
But it's only it did almost seem like a character where like specifically the White Stripes, and when they were in their like peak fame, like that whole shtick was like, you got to play shitty instruments. It has to sound rough. You have to fight for like good quality, because that's like what made it sound kind of the way it did. And then, I mean, like, yeah, Blunderbuss immediately. It's like he's playing custom guitars again. Everything sounds fucking amazing. There's like 10-piece bands in every song, and like just full production. But like, I really think it just took him a really long time to kind of open his eyes to the fact that like, just because digital is easier doesn't necessarily mean that you're like copping out by going that route, and that there's still like lots of ways you can experiment within that universe.
Yeah, you can still make art with it. I don't want to get off topic too long from Jack White, but just wanted to ask you guys, because I found this interesting at the time. Then the Black Keys became really popular. There's a lot of like Jack White diehards who really hated and shit on the Black Keys.
Interesting.
When you heard about like the Patrick Carney, Jack White.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Was it that video with like for them fighting outside of like a...
Well, Patrick Carney tried to punch Jack White in the face.
Yeah,
and then
okay,
Jack
yeah.
White like was defending himself, and Jack White's like a pretty big dude.
Isn't it known that Patrick Carney's
Patrick Carney's a big
Patrick
dude.
Carney's a
Yeah,
fucking
dude,
asshole.
Patrick Carney
Kinda.
seems like the biggest douchebag ever.
Yeah.
He has this whole crazy divorce with his wife going on right now too.
Yeah.
And I think it was like abusive or some shit.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
he
know.
seems like a piece of shit. But either way, like Jack White kind of got spun out in that whole thing for like being an asshole, even though he didn't initiate
just
it.
defend himself.
And I think that was like the tail end of the Jack White is an asshole kind of thing, where Jack White might have possibly realized like, oh hey, like being the persona of like this persnickety dick like might come back and bite me in the
Persnickety dick.
ass.
Were you guys Black Keys fans though?
I
back in the day?
was.
I was too.
Yeah, I was too. It's like interesting how we all say that past tense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Let
hard
alone
to
all
be
the
very
other shit.
stoked on the Black Keys.
Yeah, they just haven't put out
anymore.
anything good for a long time.
No.
There was a new record that came out not too long ago, right?
Last year, the year before.
It had like Wild Child on it. That song fucking sucked.
Yeah, it's ass.
I
Wow,
listened. But I
child.
remember listening to it, and
I was just like
I'll
car
always
commercial
listen
music.
to- yeah, it's like I always. Yeah, I was definitely like in a lot of Kia commercials or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what they wrote it for.
But yeah,
They should have quit a while ago.
they really should have. But I really love Dan Auerbach as a producer. He produces
Yeah.
some of the best records out there.
He's very talented.
His
guy.
work with Ray LaMontagne and
Yeah.
oh yeah,
The Ray LaMontagne album is absolutely
mostly just that
fucking
actually.
fire.
Yeah, the Ouroboros and shout out Ray LaMontagne. Oof.
Yeah.
Ouroboros and
I don't remember
that
what the
one.
other one's called. The Ouroboros is my favorite one by far.
Anyways, let's get back
Back
on
to the-
White on Jack White.
Mr. White.
So,
so-
okay. Oh, sorry, Julian, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, since we kind of talked about the White Stripes and mentioned the Raconteurs, let's just talk about the Raconteurs for like a moment.
Mhm.
So, I don't know about you guys, but for me, the Raconteurs I view and viewed back then as like a completely different discovery. Like, it was different from the White Stripes. It was different from Jack White. It was just like its own little thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of existed in its own little universe. Do you guys? I mean, I'm pretty sure you like the Raconteurs. Do you like the
I do.
Raconteurs?
Yeah, I don't really know much about the Raconteurs, but I always confuse the songs between each other.
Yeah.
And then there's Dead Weather,
Mm-hmm.
where he doesn't even sing,
He sings a bit, but
the
he's
singer
not like the front man.
sounds like Jack White, so I always get confused too about like which
Mhm.
one's Dead Weather songs. So what are the Steady As She Goes. That's the big
Mhm.
Raconteur song.
Yeah.
Yes, I was definitely a big fan of that song. It's still a really good song.
That's a good song.
It's a fucking amazing song.
Can you
The
go to
man's
the
just a fucking rock
Raconteurs
star. He's like one of the last ones left.
I think-
discography real quick?
Yeah, so the thing that I loved about the Raconteurs was how
05.
it was like, in my mind, the first kind of like traditional-ish music I had really heard Jack White participate in, where it was just like more of a band that played rock music, and it had like a lot of the Nashville influence, where it was like
Mhm.
and Tennessee influence in general. Like, I don't want to exclude everywhere else, because there's like Delta influence and whatnot too.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, the Broken Boy Soldiers album was like very focused on just being like, I don't want to say conventional rock, but more just like, yeah, straight up a rock album. And it's super good.
It was a cool album.
Yeah.
They were trying to be cool.
Yeah.
They're all beat up on the record. They're
Yeah.
Dude,
trying
they
to be
look
rock stars.
cool
and they
as
look
hell
like rock
there.
stars. Yeah, they're like
Yeah.
fucking. I don't know.
They do look
It
good.
worked.
Yeah.
It did. And I think it had really good critical reception right away. The song "Steady as She Goes," I remember being like instantly pretty fucking huge.
Yeah. It was everywhere.
Did you have any sort of special introduction to the Raconteurs, or was it just kind of
Well, I
like
was
in the fold?
Yeah, I was super into it. And then one of the first albums I got on vinyl, but this was many years after the Raconteurs, was Consolers of the Lonely. That was like my number one most spun vinyl for a long time. I loved that album. So it's a great album.
And to bring Will Brock back into the fold, that album, Consolers of the Lonely, when we, like 2015, 2016, when we were like really in our musical nerd shit, like we were both super into that album too, which Will, I was surprised that he liked it so much because he always liked just weird shit, like shit that didn't make sense to me. And so it was interesting that he liked such a down the middle kind of just normal record. But it has a lot of bangers on it. Like, I'll just pull up the track list because I can't remember. What
Heaters, baby.
It has like horns.
It has a lot of good fiddle too.
Yeah, a lot of fiddle. Oh yeah, the song "Carolina Drama" is one of their like bigger songs too. Rich Kid Blues, "Hold Up," fucking slaps. You don't understand these slaps.
They're all great.
Yeah,
it's a good record.
Yeah.
And then the Dead Weather too, which kind of, I can't remember exactly when they started. I think it was after the Raconteurs, but it only started really because Jack White wanted to play drums in a group because he started as a drummer and drums are like his preferred instrument. He always says. It's interesting too. He's like one of the best guitar players, probably like ever.
Yes.
But he only really picked up guitar because everyone else didn't want to do it. No one wanted to like front any of the groups he was in, so he just played guitar because no one else wanted to do it. And he says in like interviews and shit that he kind of feels like drums. He was never able to like connect with an audience as a drummer, but he can as a guitarist. But he just likes playing drums more, I guess. And he knew Dean Fertitta because Dean Fertitta plays in Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah.
And Jack White had been kind of hanging out with Queens of the Stone Age at the time, just like seeing them at shows and shit. And Dean Fertitta and Jack White had already known each other because Dean Fertitta tracked some shit for Jack White in the past. But I think Jack reached out to Dean Fertitta first and was like, let's do this. And then they brought in Alison Mosshart from The Kills purely because Jack White liked the way that her voice sounded. And then Jack Lawrence, who's also in the Raconteurs, is in the Dead Weather as well. So that group, I think, was just like a passion project for Jack White, and in my opinion, it kind of is the most like passion project-y out of like all his shit that he does, maybe besides like his solo career.
So I was gonna ask earlier, of all the Jack White projects, excluding White Stripes, what is your favorite? If you had to pick one,
excluding
White Stripes, you
definitely
can't pick White Stripes.
Solo Jack White Blunderbuss on.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
his best. Every single record that comes out is subsequently his greatest songwriting, with the newest record being his absolute like, God, it's not a swan song because he's not signing off yet, but like it could have been.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's like, we'll get there.
Yeah,
we will get there. But yeah, it's oof.
Yeah.
So
I
good.
think I would agree. Like
solo stuff.
Blunderbuss is what got me hooked, and I've been hooked ever since. And like he said, every album that has come out, I've kind of been like, well, this is the best it's gonna get. And then not only is it different each time, but it also is like markedly better and like more surprising each time. Like I remember when Boarding House Reach came out, just being like, I can't believe this is a fucking Jack White record, because you never would have expected him to do anything like that.
That
you know?
Single Ice Station Zebra. You're just like, what the hell is this?
I
But you're just like, but it's
song,
so cool.
I listened to
like,
it so many times. Like, goddamn.
And it was around the same time that like the Arctic Monkeys record came out, like Tranquility Base, Hotel and Casino.
Yeah.
Which I listened to again a couple weeks ago. I wasn't as into it as I used to be. Yeah.
I haven't listened to it like all the way through recently. I was into that album a lot actually.
When it came out, I was
when
too.
it came out, and what's the latest album? The Car? Is that what they call it? The Car.
Did it come out yet?
Yeah, it
it's
came out a
out.
while ago.
See, that's how
Dude,
It's so bad. I
it
couldn't
sucks.
finish it.
It
the single.
sucks.
I remember listening to the single, and I was. Oof.
It
It
literally sounds like a
Something about
B-side
paint-
from
something about
Tranquility
paint.
Base.
It does.
Yeah.
How
They're
can
so
that dude
on their
have the nerve
bullshit.
to say this is unlike anything we've ever done, and then release like the laziest fucking single
That's
they've.
because Alex Turner's like the most insufferable blowhard that is like. I mean, like I'm sure he's a fine person, but like he comes off as an insufferable blowhard to
Yeah.
like everybody. Like that's knows is even a little bit in the know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand. It's one of those confusions where like he was super popular with like the ladies and shit when I was in like high school and
Oh, yeah,
graduated.
for sure.
He was like a lady killer, and I was like, why? Like he's such a douchebag.
I
Like,
know. Well, I
the
saw
fuck?
Arctic Monkeys at Red Rocks on their fucking
AM.
AM. Thank you. Why can't I think of the name of them? On their AM tour. So like the height of Arctic Monkeys fame. And it was like Beatlemania.
That
with
would've been
chicks like
cool,
crying.
probably.
It was a cool
Yeah,
show.
I wasn't a big AM fan, but I know that it
Yeah,
was
that
a
album
good show.
sucks.
Do you guys don't like AM?
AM
I
is
don't like
terrible.
AM. No, I don't like AM. I
Literally,
don't like AM.
The last, fuck, not to hijack this.
There's some
but
cool stereo effects on that that one song. What's the big one?
Do you want to know?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
There's some cool stereo effects on that.
Or
But
do I wanna
besides
know?
that, do I want? Are you mine?
Are You
Are
Mine?
You Mine?
Are
I
you mine?
fucking hate that song.
You guys
My
got
the last
objectively, it's like a good album. You
No,
guys have to
No,
admit
It's
I
that.
think
very
it's actually
annoying.
a really,
Really?
bad album.
Yeah.
Tranquility Base is better than AM
By far.
Damn.
but Tranquility
That's a
Base
hot
is still
take.
pretty derivative and not very good.
So what's your guys' peak Arctic Monkeys?
The last one that I liked was
Favorite
Favorite
Worst
Worst Nightmare.
my favorite is Favorite Worst Nightmare for sure.
But I still think Tranquility Base is good, but it's just not very
It's derivative. That's a good word for it.
it's derivative.
Nothing
He's not
hasn't been done.
Yeah, and he's just singing to evoke whatever he's trying to appeal. Alex Turner is really good at these days of like singing these big words and saying these big phrases that seem like profound, but
Evocative.
they're not they don't mean jack. They don't
he
mean
is
anything.
he's really on his bullshit.
And they
yeah.
don't mean anything to him either, because his whole
I know
persona
for
is
a
like,
fact.
I don't care about anything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a
Yeah.
cool guy. Look at my hair. Like, look at my cool glasses at night. Fucking
I wear
douche.
sunglasses in the studio, which are some of the darkest environments ever.
I
Can't see
know only
anything
wear
right
suits
now.
from the 70s.
Yeah, literally. All right, so Colin, circle back to you. What's your favorite Jack White era?
Era or like
Or project, sorry.
It'd be Jack White solo as well. And that's where he's the most prolific and releasing all this shit.
Right answer. We've talked about this almost never, I feel like.
Yeah.
Considering how influential he is to like me, and I'm pretty annoying when I like shit, so. What's your favorite solo Jack White?
What is the album that Lazaretto's on?
Lazaretto.
It is
Yeah,
okay.
Lazaretto.
I thought it was
That's a
Lazaretto,
fucking-
but
God, maybe that one. No,
it's mine's Lazaretto.
it's the best like Jack White record, I guess I
Mm-hmm.
could say, because the two records that are new maybe like could also be argued that they're not really like necessarily
They're a
like
little more
Jack White
concept-y,
records.
yeah.
But Lazaretto.
and I
amazing.
bought that album, dude, at Third Man Records in Nashville.
And that was the vinyl that
that's
has
like-
all the
it
cool
has
shit
that
on it.
It's
That's a
really
flex
cool.
that you can just use whenever and wherever.
Yeah.
It's like you're not even. That's
Yeah,
a good
you're
flex.
You're like I am infinitely jealous of you and Keaton for this too. Shout out
went to
Keaton.
Blackbird.
Because and Daru
Beautiful
Jones,
boy.
Mm.
who plays drums for Jack White, is like a Blackbird fucking resident. Like he's
And
there all the
I
goddamn
got to
time.
mix hit the bass player that played on Lazaretto,
Dominic Davis.
who's in the video too. I got to mix a band that he played in, so I was like got to mix him
Yeah,
at
that's
a show.
fucking
That was pretty cool.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, that
and
was fun.
I'm so jealous. And you've also been to Third Man in Nashville, which is like kind of the starting ground for where Third Man eventually became like a global thing.
Oh yeah, totally. The Nashville store and like office is super cool. I went there
and
a
the
bunch.
Blue Room
and it
is
was-
there too.
Mhm.
Yeah, so much dope shit. The direct acetate to vinyl is there.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so much cool shit. So I guess what's your favorite solo Jack White?
The newest. God, what's it even called?
Fear of the Dawn, Entering Heaven Alive.
Yeah,
Which one?
Fear of the Dawn.
Yeah.
just because, God, I was camping last year. Brought my shitty little speaker, which is not actually that shitty. It's actually
It has
nice,
no
but
legs.
has no legs. Yeah. And got no legs. Anyways, she's still doing okay, but she's old. And I was in the woods, and I was with Olive, my dog.
Wait, this is your mom?
Yeah.
I zoned out. You're talking about your mom?
All right, well, we lost Robert.
Okay. So camping in the forest. Brought my portable speaker with the dog.
Oh, speaker.
Playing records. Yeah, portable speaker. My portable mom. Haven't had one of those in a minute, actually. Anyways.
Sorry, bro.
Portable speaker.
That's for a different episode.
That's like, I mean, like a long time's like 6 months. But anyways. Portable speaker. Camping. Wilderness. Dog. Olive. Playing Fear of the Dawn. And it just like clicked. And I turned it up. And I heard like the creek going in the wilderness and like everything. And I was by myself. There's like not another person for like another mile. Like see the stars, fire going. And I don't know. I always revert to a state that's like not primal, but like just very like reflective and very like all you have. You don't have self-service anything out there. You just have your thoughts. So you're just like really in your own head, like in a good way though. So you can be in your own head in a bad way, which I usually am. But when I'm out there, I'm usually in my own head, but like in a good way, you know, thinking good stuff. So all you can do is like think about and listen to the music and like I don't know. It's just such a successful concept from beginning to end, and it doesn't waver. It's just like the whole song is just a flat plane, but it's at 11 out of 10 the whole way through, and it doesn't let up. And I don't know. He had a vision for it, and he fucking, as a musician myself, I can tell like the artistry that went into it. And he had a vision for it. He just went for it, and he succeeded. And
Right on,
I love it.
He did like most of it by himself too.
Yeah.
I mean, like he did like half of it with other people, but like half of that performances and everything is just him. And like he mixed it, he produced it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great fucking record.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna rock a piss.
Have fun. I think my favorite would have to be, it would probably either have to be Fear of the Dawn or Boarding House Reach.
Mm-hmm.
Lazaretto, I think might be like his best studio album ever, but I always like things that are just purely in concept, you know, things that are one-offs. And I think Boarding House Reach is like his best one-off record where it's like nothing that he does on that he's done before or done since. And I think Fear of the Dawn is a little bit more of a return to form with just like extra shit sprinkled on top, kind of. So I think Boarding House Reach is like his most exciting, and it's definitely the one I've listened to the most. Like when it came out, I was listening to it like 2 or 3 times a fucking day for like literally months. Like that was the first year that Spotify did like the yearly Wrapped, and everything was Jack White. He was my #1 artist. All the songs were Jack White songs from Boarding House Reach. Like it was just through and through. That album captivated me, and I think it's the most like refreshing and unique approach ever. For like that specific type of rock music.
Yeah.
But then Robert's right too. Like Fear of the Dawn literally is like, it's just one of those records that, from start to finish, everything's perfect from performance to production to like, even you can hear like the way that it's engineered, like you can hear everything better. Like, and it's cool that considering, 10 years ago, he had written off like digital production entirely, that now he's excelling in making like,
extremely
things that are extremely
high fidelity
digital
shit. Yeah.
And I just also want to take a quick second to shout out Daru Jones, because he's the drummer for Jack White. He's played live with Jack White throughout ever since Blunderbuss, but he plays drums on a lot of the new record, and a lot of the new record is literally like his drum performances are like what make that record amazing. Hey Will.
What up, dude? All right, let's fucking wrap this thing up since Will's here and Robert's back.
That's my answer.
Right on.
So yeah, I guess in all honesty, like we kind of just barely scratched the surface of the amount of Jack White that I can talk about.
We'll have to do a part 2.
So we might have to come back to this later in like a year. But I think if I could point to one artist who's like been influential to me consistently, like nonstop throughout like the last 10, 12, probably like more like 15 years of my life, it would definitely be Jack White. Like Tom York is like up there and like Johnny Greenwood is like up there, but like Jack White has kept me like inspired more than I would say like anybody else. So
Oh, yeah.
fucking love that guy.
Robert, any closing words?
Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for being
Of
here, dude.
course.
Super
I
Glad to
live,
be back
I
on
live
the show.
here.
Yeah.
You can
You're
come
gonna have
on
to drop
anytime
in
you want.
Whenever, yeah.
Noise.
Anytime you want. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you
Goodbye.
guys.
Podcadzo.